Welcome to the Secret Agents of Consciousness podcast. My name is Genevieve Faulkner, your host. And today with me, I have the beautiful Lady Sunshine Crown, who is another Access Consciousness certified facilitator who I invited to jump on with me because she has such a beautiful connection to nature and to kind of the spirits of the earth, and has spent quite a lot of time with Indigenous communities. And so I was curious about what you know about magic, about earth magic, about yeah, what, just anything you'd kind of like to share about what you know about the earth and magic.
Hi, well, thanks for having me. And yes, I spend most of my life in nature if I can. And I have spent my whole life, I've been connected to the Indigenous spirit of this land, but also, the people. And I've just had that. And, I have a lot of memories from past lives. So I think it's a lot of that as well. But because I've had so much trauma and stuff with people, it was always the earth that held me. And it was always the earth that showed me what I knew, that made me feel good. And then exploring with different people, Indigenous people all across the lands. And I've worked in a lot with healing people from the stolen generation, and and listen to elders and listen to, they lived with this land, and not just the earth, but every planet and every galaxy. So they lived in oneness. And the further I got through Access Consciousness, and the more classes and the more language, and the more I've been looking at how colonization, or whatever those beings are that don't want Indigenous people to know they're powerful and don't want us to have this connection to the land, the more I realized that what Access Consciousness was creating was what these elders and this, these cultures had, these tribes of the earth have, and had all along, the communion with the earth. Gary Douglas talks a lot about asking every energy to contribute to you. Well, that's how they lived all their life. And so the more that I have become more conscious and healed myself, the more I've been able to see how powerful, how powerful that is for a person walking on the earth. I'm actually in this area that I look after. I've got my bare feet on the ground. So I've got this is actually a piece of land that I take care of. And I have a treaty with the Indigenous. That's my totem. I don't know if you can hear them because I've got headphones. Can you hear them?
I get the birds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got a treaty and an agreement to look after this area. It's called being the Kaitiaki. And it just brought me here. So did that answer your question?
And so how do you look after it? Is that like an energetic thing, or is it like an actual physical thing?
It's an energetic thing, and then there is a physical element on top of it. But I work with, changing the molecules in the water. It'll tell me if it needs something, and I will contribute that energy to it. This area comes waterfalls and down through into the waterways. And well, you actually sing. So the song and the dance, the joy, the songs and the dance that the Indigenous have are for plants, animals, and each one of those has a certain, like a totem will look after that piece of land. It will look after that ecosystem. It's part of the whole. So people think that they're just doing a kangaroo dance, but they have no idea the depth of the kangaroo, or they have no idea the depth of the that totem, unless you really look at how that being lives with the earth. And so that's where you get the power and the medicine. You know, and Native American, they talk about shape shifting and things like that. So I was talking to this spider on a tree, okay, because I went to lean on the tree and the spider was like, ah, and it ran around the trunk, and I invited it to come back around, and I said, oh, it's okay, come back and talk to me. And it did, and it came and sat in this little groove in the tree. So the Indigenous talk about the dreaming, the consciousness that always was, always there in everything. And so I talked to the spider. So I went into the spider dreaming, they call it. They dreamed up this earth. They, you know, so I went into the spider's world, and I have to say, it was next level.
What did you learn? What awarenesses did you get from this?
Oh my God. I was just like, I was in a whole nother realm. I was in this, you know, so the dreaming is like, to me, the spirit world.
Yep.
And I have basically dedicated my life to that. And I have dedicated my existence, especially since 2020, to being that dreaming. And everywhere I go, I've always asked the ancestors of that land, because I've worked with a lot of Indigenous spirits, whether they're disembodied or embodied. But the disembodied ones, I've had to help a lot of them from the trauma and, you know, what's happened here. But then a lot of them started teaching me. And so this spider dreaming energy, I was just really happy. I was like, wow, like how they perceive the earth is like, I think that's what people take drugs for, to experience that. But you don't have to, if you're willing to just be with a spider. Like, who is just hanging out with a spider, having a chat?
I love that, because there's some spiders in my house, and one of the things I've noticed about spiders is the level of presence they have.
Yeah.
Like you know, you look at them and they're like with you.
So, like, what? Yeah. And you know, like, look at their spider web. Like, one day I was walking and I just watched this spider weave the whole web.
Yeah.
And it's rainbows, right? So it's rainbows, it's got light filaments on it. So that's where I went. I was like, wow. And this tiny spider in this big tree in this massive jungle, I was like, I just received so much from it. Like healing, awareness. I mean, I can't even tell you. It was so beyond this reality. It was beyond this reality. That's what it is. The earth will take you beyond this reality. It is, you know, the fairies, the leaf beings. It's like, I guess I see everything as a being. So, you know, like trees. They're my friends, you know, and you can get so much different medicine from them, you know. I keep going, I'm not sure if I'm answering your questions, because
I think
to me the earth is so multi-dimensional.
Yeah.
It's like living in a hologram.
Yeah. I love what you're saying, because it's kind of like how much more awareness would everybody have, and how many more capacities would we all have if we were all willing to be basically what you're saying that you've been with the spider, like with every single animal. Like how, like, you know, like how much, like how many different things could every single animal teach us? Yeah. So I think it's really cool what you're saying.
And I guess I've always known that with the Indigenous, you know, people of this land. I've known they were magical. It's like, I've known they were magical. It's like, why would someone come and try to wipe them all out unless they're like super powerful? And I've looked at that, and they are, you know. So a lot of, they know beyond this reality. They know beyond the matrix, and they used to sing and dance and with the galaxy, the whole galaxy and everything in it. They were in communion with. They would sing and dance and travel on those songs, on the vibration and the lines of those song lines, which the earth had also created. to know where they could have shelter. Or so they were all these 9 trannies that we talk about. They are that. And so the more that I have just said yes, that's how I live. And so whenever I go anywhere, I always ask that country, they call it country, you call it earth, to look after me. And it makes me invisible to, police. It makes me invisible to trouble. That's actually how I get around.
Yeah.
It makes country will take care of you.
It's like, these rules don't apply.
They don't.
Glide, yeah, I'll just glide through life. Like, I am too magic for this. Yeah, I love it.
I'm in the dreaming.
Yeah.
And the dreaming was here first.
Yeah.
So first in time, best in law. It's actually known. So I've always followed the law. So LORE is not LAW. So law is the law of the earth. So, it's how, elders, and they would get the totem and the country to teach the children. So if they were being, a lot of their stories and dreaming stories are about like either jealousy or, these things that come up in personalities. They would look at a story of the emu or the crocodile, or, and they will have a story between those beings. They will have a story between the crocodile and the whatever. And then if you've got that totem, they know with that child, can you hear the kookaburras laughing?
Yeah.
They're all here. If they know that whatever that totem is with that child, that they're the type of things that they have to look out for. So if it's a really sleepy, if it's just like I've got a koala totem and it's just like eating gum leaves and stoned out of its brain, then that's what they might have to look for with that child that has that totem. And that's how they work with their children, and they don't get involved. They know that child, that spirit, is here to work that out with the creator and the earth and the totem. And they don't really get involved other than that, because the earth mother will take care of it, or creation, or LORE will take care of it. So I mean, doesn't that just seem like a more beautiful
I love that. It's totally more of a, space of being an infinite being, as opposed to, just having a mother and father and being in this reality. It's, yeah.
Yeah. And if you're out like doing something on the rock, or you are out and then something happens, then that's the LORE talking to you. Which, like, you and me can go,
yeah.
We're in our head and we fall on the ground and you're like, oh yeah, I need to just chill. Like, it's the same thing. They have that, right? So I know I've ended up on the ground plenty of times when I was in my head or a million dimensions, and then I'm flat on the ground. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, thanks, buddy. Like, I'm here now. I get it. But that's how they watch,
Yeah.
And the earth is part of that, because that's what you're here with the earth. You got to look after it, and if you look after it, it'll look after you.
So for people that are kind of like just beginning on their journey of maybe awareness, or like, just like trying to step into more, maybe wanting to reclaim more of the magic of them, what would you recommend in regards to like how would they begin kind of tapping more into the earth and being in communion with the earth, or like discovering what time they have, or like, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Where do you begin?
Well,
newbies.
I would look at Indigenous people talking, and I would be with them, listening about the earth, or their song, or how they perceive, because they still have that. They haven't been totally programmed out of it. We were totally programmed out of it. But look, we all have infinite being, so just asking questions, and just you know, I kind of get just looking at different ways that different people have worked with the earth. You know, like the Celtics have the fairies, and you know, I've worked in a crystal shop with the, you know, I had my awakening at 19. Okay, so I nearly died, and I started seeing a healer, and she started, you know, telling me that that I was psychic and I had these abilities, and that really made sense to me. Even though I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, but I knew, because I was like, I always knew what was going on with everyone, and it always was different, and I always wanted to be in nature rather than other things. And so when she helped me after I nearly died, she started teaching me about fairies and things. So I was like sitting in this school learning about the nature spirits and things like that. So I was pretty lucky in that way. And then I just started having my own discovery and my own awareness. Because once you realize you've had it, you look back and you go, oh, I always had it. Like when you'd go on holidays with your family and you'd go to certain areas and you'd get like this energy inside you. I used to get it around waterfalls. And like, you know, when the vines are really big, and I just always knew something magical was in there. So I was like, oh, okay. Like now I know that's where all the elementals live. And so I've worked with crystals in the crystal shop and that whole realm of earth spirits and water nymphs. And, you know, you can look up a lot and get a lot from an oracle deck of fairies or a deck of like oracle things that have like tree spirits. That's how I kind of started to be able to see again in the beginning, when I wasn't still fully believing it, because you can know it, but you're just like, oh yeah, is that really a fairy, or is that really that tree is talking to me and telling me to water it? Plants are bossy, you know, like nature's loud. You know, you can tell when the bird's screaming at you.
Yeah.
But just listening. There's this word called Dadari. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I could be not, but it's Dadari, and it's deep listening. And in Indigenous, they were telepathic, and they perceived, knew, know, be, and receive everything. And that's why they didn't talk much. They didn't have.
You're just cutting out slightly.
Sorry. Deep listening, because I'm walking around in the jungle. So can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yep, it's come back.
Am I here?
You're here. Yes.
That was really funny, because what I was saying is Dadari is deep listening.
Yep.
What I do is I go and I lie down and I breathe. And so like one day I went and lied down on this rock and listened to, like right now, I'm listening to all the insects.
Yep.
And I go into their sound and I see what their sound is doing. And so one time during lockdown, we were in lockdown over Christmas, and there was this big ceremony, Indigenous ceremony in Uluru. Anyway, a few weeks later, when lockdown was on, so no one's around, we went to this beautiful place, and the cicadas were so loud. And we were looking at this lake that comes down from the waterfall, and it's crystal clear, and we swim in it. But you can see where all the little mud crabs live. Okay. So when you look at everything as oneness, which is what the Indigenous see, everything is oneness, where every leaf falls, every rock. So everything, so I could see the sound, hear it, and I could see the vibration, the frequency, going down into the mud crab.
That's
so
awesome.
The song of so they live underground and then they come up and sing. So I was watching this energy then go down into the mud crabs, and then what the mud crabs did with the sound. And so I was seeing it on this whole other level. So sound is really great, like listening to frogs and just letting them clear you. It just goes through your brain. Like really listening to insects and what they're actually changing with the earth, and what's the earth changing with that sound, and then that goes out past the earth. And so seeing it more like a continuity, like does that help?
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Like being really present with it and like observing while at the same time receiving like what is. And I love that because I think that we like in this reality or as people, we're so kind of programmed to be separate from all of that and to, you know, always be on computers or phones and not really just sitting and observing and receiving and allowing
and letting it contribute to you, you know?
Yeah.
Like sound, when you really go there, it's a trip.
Yeah.
Like everything will take you into this otherworldly energy if you don't look at it how school said that's a dog, that's a cat.
Yes.
You know, school was programmed
to
make us be so stupid and have level like grade 2 reading.
Yeah.
So it's like,
and fit in boxes
and a lot more things. I keep finding out. So it's like, if you looked at everything, ask, how would an Indigenous person look at this tree? How would an Indigenous person listen to this sound? You know, I pulled up here and there's kookaburras here and there's 3 of them and they've got this really different sound coming. And I know that they're looking for food. They're waiting for a snake. So for me, I'm like, okay, they're waiting for a snake. So now I can be aware of the snake. And they're talking to each other about it.
I love that. I love like your awareness of like everything that's going on at the same time.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, that's what true awareness is. It's like, oh yeah, you know, the spider web, that bug. You know, sometimes I watch bugs in my aura and I can tell that they're like re-threading my aura with light. And if you watch them, they move in patterns. So it's not just a bug. I mean, I'm not fully at oneness with flies yet, but you know, they have a purpose in the ecosystem as well. But you know, yeah, you can get a lot of information. Like even with snakes, I just send them pictures and go, okay, you should turn around now. And they go, okay. Or like, I just chat to it. And I saw one here one day and there was a family and it was a red belly and they were like kind of freaked out. The little girl's like, and I just said to it, you should go that way. And it just turned around and did that. And I was like, well, that was easy. Wow. And, you know, and then I saw a brown snake the other day, but I wasn't ready for it. I was like, oh, I'm going to do a post on my Instagram. I was walking. I'd just come from the beach. I wasn't really bush ready. And then I looked down and there was this brown snake with its tongue out. And my immediate reaction was like, wah! And then I just turned around and then I was like, I'm sorry. And it just went back in the bush. But I was like, sorry. You know, or like if I've been swimming with dolphins and they're like trying to play a game with you in Hawaii, they get this leaf and they try to play a game with you. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm like choking on my snorkel and I'm not like, you know, adept to swimming underwater anymore, like having to explain to them why I can't keep up, you know, I'm sorry. I don't have the breathing things down. Yeah, and like, you know, a lot for me is the song and the dance. So, you know, I went whale watching and I know that the song, like in the Māori tribes, and, you know, I have very strong connection to all of that. But one day we went out on a boat and my partner and I started singing to the whales, even though there was other people on the boat. And after 40 minutes of singing this like language, non-English language, they came and danced around the boat for 40 minutes. And I was crying because it was an acknowledgement that I'm not making it up.
Yeah.
That we can still have this communion that we've always had.
I love that. What would it take for more of us to like be totally fluent in all of the in the telepathic language of animals and all of the ways in which they communicate? I think that's really really cool.
I mean, it is, because it kind of makes you happy all the time.
Yeah.
You're not trying to figure out like politicians, just like whatever. The crocodile could eat you at any time, and I could ask it to.
I like it because animals are so much more playful too. Like effectively.
I know, like right now I'm watching 2 dragonflies playing, and I'm just like, the fairies. I don't know. Like that's what I'm getting distracted by, the 2 dragonflies playing with each other. Whoa! Did you see that? They just came right around me, and again. Now they're talking to me. Wow. And so your whole day is just like, they're circling around me now. A constant, because if nothing was built on top of it, like this is how I think of it. If nothing was built on top of it and everything was just the way it was, then how beautiful was our life? We wake up to this shining being and you'd have a song. You'd have a sun song. They have a song for everything in Indigenous cultures. The song for the rising sun, the song for the setting. They have these beautiful words and language that describes what it's actually being and doing.
I like that. And you'd never feel alone because everything would be speaking to you all of the time.
Everything is your friend. Everything is your friend.
Everything.
Everything. You're not waking up going, oh my God, I still don't have any money. I still didn't do that thing. You know, it takes away so much trauma. Yeah. It takes away so much of the invented and forced realities.
Yeah.
And you can just
intensities.
Oh yeah. I guess that's why I have to spend so much time in nature. So I don't feel emotionally intense. Yeah. I mean, each leaf is so different and has so it's grown from a seed in the ground and then the stars shine on it. So there's all this information and dreaming. There's so many dreams in there.
It's beautiful.
There's so many different dreams. And different rivers look after different planets and things like that. So different elements, I was listening to one young girl talk about their river, where they come from is really important, and then the totems. And then she was talking about how that area looked after this certain planet in the galaxy, which was about this certain element on the planet. And, and how they use that in their life. Profound. Not, dog, cats, mum, dad, house. Do you hear that program from school?
Yeah.
Dog, cat, mum, dad, house. It's not sitting around a fire talking to your ancestors, having a song and dance about the oneness.
Yeah. I like that. I like that it's kind of like everything has its place as well. And so maybe a question for people to ask is what is their place in nature? What is their place with the earth that they haven't acknowledged?
And in a tribe, you come in with your purpose. You can't all be the one that climbs the trees for the coconut. No, One has to be really good at cooking. One has to be really good at building. You know, that's how the universe is created. So there's everything, a full spectrum. So you don't have that sense that you're not, you know, oh, I'm not a maths person. I mean, I used to say that to my maths teacher. He's like, well, I'd be outside counseling someone. Well, that's my job. I'm still counseling people. I'm not here to do maths. And he would go, well, what are you going to do? I was like, I'll pay an accountant. They like numbers. I mean, it was so obvious to me and not obvious to them. So I do really get that I'm also just not a very good white person. That's what it really is. I'm just not a good white person. I'm not a good white person. I'm never gonna. You know, so there's this sense of belonging. You know, there's like, if someone's sick, they all sing and dance around that person until that person's spirit's better.
I love that. I think that's beautiful.
There's so much oneness. They don't even have the word I in their language. There's things in their vocabulary that don't exist because it's not part of their reality. There's no I, there's no me. There's not even, you know, if it's not sorry or not thank you, because it's all oneness. You don't need to, yeah.
I think that's really cool because it awakens the question also of like, what is healing for people that maybe they don't realize is healing because they've been so programmed into thinking, you know, like medicine is healing or whatever like definitions or conclusions that they have, like what is actually healing to your body, what's nurturing to your body that you haven't acknowledged as well. So yeah.
I mean, all scientists are trying to do is mimic what's already there.
Yeah.
And so what's really the most intelligent?
Yes. Oh, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Like, I'm really grateful for like everything that you've kind of shared, and for I'm hoping that kind of like people like watching or listening to this will tap into like the energetic awarenesses of what your reality really is with nature and receive from that, because there's so much there with what you've said, but also energetically the conversation that you've kind of brought is like such a gift. Thank you.
Thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
For people that are like, oh my God, like I love this woman's energy. Like what could you just like share how like people could find you if they, or what it is that you like to kind of assist people with?
Yep. Okay, well, I have an Instagram page called phenomenal.living. I have my accessconsciousness.com/Alison Hart, which is my fake name, my other name. And that's it right now because I have been reinventing all my websites. So I have 3 sitting there. So those 2 are a good start. Facebook. How else would you find me? How else would they find me? How did you find me?
I met you in an access class.
Yeah, so I have my Access Consciousness /Alison Hart. I've got that, and I've got, I think Instagram and Facebook is where I post my worlds with nature.
And you work with lots of the spirit world, and you also love to
a lot with entities,
facilitating bodies also. And you're in the Sydney area or New South Wales, or like wandering back and forth all over the place.
I've just spent 6 weeks on the road.
Yeah,
I spent six weeks on the road teaching bars.
Yeah,
and I've been teaching the RNA process for obvious reasons, and doing a lot with bodies. And I support a lot of families and kids as well. You know, I'm a coach, I'm a mentor, I'm a healer, I'm a spirit whisperer, you know, many things. And that's where I'm at right now. Is I'm in the north of Sydney, but I move around because I go on walkabout. I go wherever the earth and the spirit asked me to go. And
that's awesome.
That's actually, you know, if you talk to an Indigenous person, they'll be like, oh yeah, the ancestors told me I had to go, you know, and they call it spirit way. And it's like, that's how I've lived my life for 12, 13, 14 years. If spirit tells me to go somewhere, I go.
I love that. I think that's awesome. It's just like totally being in flow.
Yeah, because you can get really big headaches when you don't listen to them. Yeah. You know, I kind of laugh that it's like they go, oh, you have free will. I'm like, yeah, you have free will, but you do what you're told. Like, you can get some really severe headaches when you don't listen to them. Yeah. That's how it is. If I'm told to go somewhere on the earth, I do a lot with the earth. I've traveled around the world changing energies, clearing curses off lands and people, and a lot of taking what colonization has done to the native peoples and the lands and the nature spirit. So that's a lot of the work that I have done with my partner in the last 10 years. We would go and do different ceremonies and song. And ceremonies and song are so powerful. They change the matrix. Yeah. So we use words and things like that, but how they do song and dance.
You're cutting out again.
Gateways in. Can you hear me?
No, it just cut out. So we just
you know why? Because I'm not supposed to be sharing those secrets. Yeah. So I'm gonna shut up.
Okay, so if people want those secrets, they can contact you personally. Yes. And you'll help explore magic with them. There is, for those of you that would like to kind of like develop your capacities with the earth, be more in communion with the earth, there is a Access Body Process class that you can go to, which is Restoration with Communion of the Earth, that Alison facilitates, I facilitate, and there's facilitators all over the world. You can find one in your area at accessconsciousness.com, and that will allow kind of the separation that you've been conditioned into to dissipate, release, so that you and your body can be more in communion. So like, don't check that out, because it would be terrible to have like more joy and fun and like play with all of the animals.
Yeah, and if you have a property and you have land, it's going to make it really easy for you.
Yeah.
To work with your land and your property and your animals or your plants or food growing. I mean, if everything's talking to you, it's very easy to sort things out. You know? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you. You're amazing. You're a superwoman.
Thank you. You too. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who listened and watched this. I'm very grateful. Yes. If there's anything else that you'd like to ask Alison or me, get in touch. Yeah, cool. Awesome. Thank you. Bye.